Thank you so much for having us today. We're always excited to come down there and meet our soon-to-be freshman students. So this is the first step for you guys, as you leave the middle school and move on to the high school. It's an exciting time. It's also, a little bit of a scary time, and that's okay. We want to make sure that we talk to you about, or provide information for you guys so that you feel comfortable and answer as many questions as we possibly can. So, going off of what Dr. Bryan said, Mr. Buterball will be down at lunch today, and then I'll be down tomorrow, and then we'll be back again next week. So any questions that you have, make sure that you write them down. We'll keep record of them as well, and then maybe we can share them out to the class in case somebody else has the same question. Today really is meant to be an introduction to, excuse me, to the programs that we have here at the high school. On Thursday night, we have Winterfest, which is a wonderful opportunity for you guys as well. From 6 to 7, we'll be talking to your parents and giving them, a similar presentation to what you're going to hear this morning. But then from 7 to 8 o'clock, we have all of our clubs and activities and even our club sports, giving you guys a preview of what's available at Radnor High School. We have over 100 clubs and activities and so many wonderful things to do. We really want to encourage you as freshmen to get involved as much as you can. It's definitely an adjustment coming up to the high school, but we'll be there with you every step of the way. This year, we put in place a freshman mentor program where you will be assigned 2 upperclassmen mentors to help you through the year. And we'll have seminars throughout the year to discuss different topics to help, such as study skills. We'll talk about planning. We'll talk about transcripts. We'll talk about, midterms and finals, course selection, all the things that, you want to know. And the great thing is you can hear them from your peers who have gone through it already and really get the inside perspective. So that's something that we have in place for you guys as well. Mr. Buterball is going to talk a lot about our academic programs today. So do pay attention, do write down any questions that you have, and then, we'll make sure that we answer those. Your homework really is to start thinking about what you want your freshman year to look like. Before I give the webinar over to Mr. Buterball, I'll, leave you with this one thought. One of the things that we want to do at the high school is we always want to push you to challenge yourselves, right? To challenge yourselves in all the ways that you can, whether that's in, your classes or whether that's on the stage or on the field. But at the same time, we want you to maintain balance, right? We want you to challenge yourselves, but also not to overdo it and make sure that you're taking care of yourselves at the same time. And that's so important, that self-care piece. So keep that in mind as you look at, the courses that you want to select and you work with your teachers to do so. So thank you. We wish you the best of luck. This is just the beginning. We have a lot of things coming to talk about this. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Buterball. Mr. Buterball.
All right. Good morning, 8th grade. Welcome to this presentation. As we get started, hopefully I look familiar to some of you. Back when you were in 6th grade, about a year and a half ago, I was the 8th grade house principal. So moved up to the high school like you're soon to do as well. And I think it's a big, scary place. It's not that scary. It's a great, wonderful school. And the people here today, this is really the first step along the journey to try to get you ready and prepared for your transition to 9th grade here at Radnor High School. And you're the class of 2025. That has a nice ring to it. So again, I look forward to seeing you, whether it's virtually or in person. As Principal Kevicus just said, one of us will be at the lunches today, tomorrow, then again next week, just to say hello, take some questions, and try to make you feel somewhat connected and comfortable in this transition to the high school. So today, again, it's about the program of studies and the course selection process. So this starts very soon. And so for the next 20, 30 minutes, we're going to share some information with you, resources. And again, there's a lot of supports there to help you. We have your 8th grade house principal, Dr. Bryan, your 8th grade counselor, Ms. Wakowiak, and your teachers. Maybe you have a brother or sister at home that also went through the process recently. So again, a lot of people here to help you in this transition from 8th to 9th grade. So again, we're going to start with a PowerPoint presentation. There's a video involved. And as you're going along, as Dr. Bryan suggested, maybe take a few notes. A lot of information coming at you. But again, there's opportunities in the next couple of weeks and months to get ready and get your schedule set for that transition to the high school. Okay, transitioning to the presentation. As I just mentioned, you are the official class of 2025. And as you come to the high school, you'll be welcomed with hopefully arms in person. Hopefully, COVID vaccine is more readily available, and we started an in-person model in September. That's what we're hoping for. Hope to see you then. So the course selection process. As you're sitting there listening and thinking about next year, freshman year in high school, there's a lot to consider. For example, when you're choosing these courses, there's a lot of different levels and ability levels. Typically in 8th grade, if you have in the core sections, you have 2 levels. You're often either in grade level or maybe you're in the accelerated level. In the next couple of weeks, there are important conversations to have with your teacher about next year. What level, what challenge do you want to place upon yourself? Your teachers have usually done this for a number of years, and they have a really good understanding where you're at. They spent half a year with you already. It's January, semester 1's ending very soon, marking period 2 rather. And so they have a good understanding of your ability level and what's an appropriate level of challenge. It's also important to talk about your future plans and your interest. What do you want to do in high school? What's a career pathway? It sounds like forever away, 2025 right now, but what are you going to do after high school? And so as you're starting to think about your courses, this is when the counselors come into play too, like just try to target some of these courses to your interests and your ability levels. And of course too, it sounds like forever away, but in 9th grade, you take what's called the PSAT or the practice SAT exam. We have one coming up in about 2 weeks here at the high school for the sophomores, January 26th. So we do these things along the way to get an idea of where you're at, your strengths and your interests. So again, as you go through the course process, at some point, Ms. Walkowiak will sit down with you and go over your schedule, your preliminary schedule, the courses that your teachers recommended. Later in this presentation, we're also going to talk about the courses or the electives or the encore classes, we call them in middle school, that you're going to choose for next year. Moving on to the next slide. One of the unfortunate circumstances of living in COVID is that we have this really wonderful program at the high school called Rad TV. And it's basically Radnor TV station. And so a lot of times they do special programs. It's a video recording studio. Once you get up here and once you do the tour, typically the last week in May, like that Tuesday or Wednesday after Memorial Weekend, you come to the high school and visit. We hope to have that happen in person this year. You get to see our wonderful building. And one of the things that the students love is the TV studio. Unfortunately, it's a small area and it hasn't run this year. And so the video we typically show every year to the 8th graders about our courses, our school, or programming is dated. So I'm not going to share the whole video with you. This video is on our website. It's available for you to watch. It's about 13 minutes long, and it basically has a TV crew going around the building, filming, recording, interviewing students. Right away, again, I would play a snippet of it. You'll notice it's pre-COVID, full classrooms, no masks, no social distancing. So again, I'm going to play a minute or two of it. I encourage you to watch it on your own or reference it if you're trying to think about your electives. One of the things we always say is, hey, pick five electives, because just like when you're in 8th grade, you don't get all the electives you like or want. Typically 2 is what you end up with. Just like now, you probably have some kind of combination of art or facts or some other course of interest, computer class. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the video.
Hi, I'm Ryan again with the art. I went through this course selection process quite a few times. All the electives. Arts program allows students to choose their own creative path while bringing the artist out in everyone. Art Studio 1 is an introductory class open to all. Art Studio 2 allows you to refine. We offer honors and AP courses to build a portfolio and earn college credit. Students may also pursue a more specialized path by taking art classes.
Is that coming through? Maybe not.
I do not see it, Ryan.
Okay. Well, in that case, we're going to skip back to the presentation.
Mr. Buderbaugh, if you'd like, you can send the video to me and I'll push it out to students after the presentation for them to watch individually.
Absolutely. Okay, so unfortunately, I prefaced it by saying some of the things weren't working properly this year with Rad TV. This appears to be another one of them. So just to touch base on that video, it captures the courses, electives at the high school, and it didn't come through clearly, which no worries, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so speaking of resources, as you're thinking about the courses at the high school, the first document is called the Program of Studies. Much like the middle school, it lists every single course it runs. It's about an 84-page document that you have access to. It's on our website. And so today's presentation and tomorrow night with your parents at Winterfest, we're trying to highlight the key pieces of it. So if you have a question, it gives you a paragraph description, talks about the different levels, if it's an honors or a grade level, in this case, advanced or CP. Also, Ms. Wakowiak has an online course selection guide. So at some point next month, you'll be on a computer and you'll basically go into the Home Access Center and select the different courses that you're interested in taking. Just to preview it real quick, she has it. It goes through each of the steps, it walks you through the 6 or 7 different steps along the way where you select your elective. So when you get to February, you have the opportunity to sit in a computer. Virtual students, again, there'll probably be a Zoom of some sort. And Ms. Walkovic can talk about that towards the end of the presentation. Both these resources, again, are on our website at the high school. Let's talk about your schedule next year. Freshman year, how does it look similar or different to 8th grade year? Most of you are sitting there in an integrated program or Chrome, Bronze, and so the core classes are still a staple. So you'll have an English, Math, Science, and Social Studies. Those 4 right there are standard across all schedules. That's 4 credits. Most of you will have a world language. So if you have French or Spanish in 8th grade this year, most of you will take it again next year. For those students that don't have a language right now, we were very fortunate that this year German, Latin, and Spanish. Or maybe you want to switch languages. Maybe you spend 1.5 years or 2 years taking a language and you've got the base foundation and you want to switch up. So again, most freshmen take a world language. In addition to that, just like 8th grade year, all freshmen are required to take health and phys ed. And then the last part, electives, which we'll talk more about later in the presentation. Often you have 2 or more electives in a typical freshman schedule. I mentioned earlier in the presentation electives and academic leveling. So there's different levels depending on the department and the discipline. So with math, we have a seminar, which is kind of like the top or honors level. An example is you might have like a seminar level algebra 2 for some of the 8th grade students, or there could be an honors level class, advanced CP, and eventually, when you become a sophomore or junior, many of the students, or we encourage you to take an advanced level AP class. Additionally, all the different disciplines have honors and advanced. So again, if you have an accelerated class in 8th grade, that typically transitions to an honors level. If you have a grade level, that usually transitions to an advanced or college prep. One of the changes for teachers and students next year is the college prep. So only math and science next year have a college prep level, whereas the humanities or the English and social studies do not have college prep. So that's one of the changes for next year as you're making those recommendations. Again, the teachers will look to see where you're at and make a recommendation for a course next year. Then in February, you get to see what that recommendation was. Again, your teacher knows you the best. They spent half a year with you, and we value their opinion and their decision, their the professional advice. So again, they know you best. One of the last bullets on here are levels are continually evaluated. What that really means is that you may start the year at an advanced level and you think this isn't challenging enough, it's not rigorous enough, I want to challenge. Just like the middle school, we do have an override and underride process that involves your parent, your counselor, and teacher. maybe you spend a couple weeks, taking that advanced level English class. You're like, you know what, this is great, but I want more of a challenge, and you move up. Likewise, if you feel like you're in, and it's too challenging, it's too rigorous, there's a process to override if you feel like it's more than you're able at that point as a freshman. So again, those are the conversations you have through teacher, your counselor, your parents to make sure you're placed appropriately. Moving on to electives. So after your teachers recommend your core courses for next year, you have the opportunity to choose, and we encourage you to take up to 5 electives. So much like the middle school, we have art, facts, music, tech education, you're thinking computer classes, and a really robust theater program. So the one thing is that as freshmen, there are some limitations. And again, that's whenever your counselor comes into play a little bit with Ms. Malkowiak, is that you can't take a level 2 acting class or art class until you take level 1. And we just call that a prerequisite. So again, usually as a freshman, there are some sequencing and prerequisites that are required. Likewise, grade restrictions, some of the electives are more designed for upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors. Just as we said before, about how do you choose these 5 electives? Think about your interests, your passions. What do you like to learn about? Maybe you want to challenge yourself and try something that you haven't taken in the middle school. There's also the demanding of the schedule too. Some of the electives are very challenging. Some electives are considered an honors level class, which has a weight to it. So it would take your grade point average and actually increase it because it's such a rigorous and challenging elective. At the same time, we want you to have fun. We want you to enjoy studying, and we encourage you to pursue your passions, and balance is a key too. One of the things we really encourage all freshmen to have in their schedule is a study hall. Again, it's basically like I guess we'll compare it to an advisory that isn't a scheduled class. You're not going to music, you're not having a structured direct instruction. So it's a time, usually 41 minutes, where you can work, often check with a teacher, collaborate on a project. So again, the freshman schedules usually has that study hall and you have some balance. So it's not 8 straight periods of a class or elective. Additionally, especially when you get to high school, we start thinking about the college process, the college application process, and our counselors here at the high school, we have 5 of them. They'll talk to you about what they recommend as far as your interest in building a strong transcript. And counselors, unlike the middle school, are based on your last name. So, where Ms. Malkowiak was with you for 3 years, since 6th grade, then 7th and 8th. At the high school, you have the same counselor for 4 years, but again, there's 5 of them based on your alphabet. So like A through D is one counselor, and then end of the alphabet, like T through Z is a different. Just another slide. Again, this PowerPoint presentation will be on the website. You'll have access to it in a couple of days. So lots of information. This gives you a quick overview of the different options you have within the electives. And it shows you some typical courses that freshmen would take. As you can see, it's broken down in the big umbrellas of art, facts, TV, music, theater arts, and tech education. So each of these, if you check our program of studies, there's a description that talks about the level. There's usually a paragraph blurb about what you're expected to learn. It tells you when they meet. Some of these classes are considered full year. So they start in September, end in June, whereas other ones are just semester based. So they start in September, they end in January. So again, it talks about the credits, the duration, the frequency of meeting, all that's in the program of studies. We encourage you to check it out. As you get to the high school, some of you love STEM, the science, the art. And, for instance, I'm thinking like gateways, if any of you listening are in the gateways program, that's, project lead the way type of course where you're combining all the different aspects in your learning pathway. So just kind of similar to the gateways program at the middle school, you're taking science and math classes that are geared towards STEM and project lead the way. So you have AP classes, engineering classes, and others that follow along that pathway. So many of our students have 2, 3, or more classes in the project lead the way fields. I think typically about 25 to 30% of our students are taking a PLTW course, and they're extremely popular here at the high school. Swimming. So as a freshman, one of the things we have at the high school is swimming test to see if you're a proficient or able to swim. So if you're one of these students that on a swimming team or you're at the pool, most likely you'll pass the swimming test and not be required to take as a sophomore. However, if you're unable to swim, it's an important life skill. You'll be required to take in a swimming class. Typically, it comes during the sophomore year. So again, all freshmen do have a swimming test. Essentials courses. So somewhat similar to the middle school, the essential courses provide extra support, working on foundation skills. We have essential courses in math, reading, writing, studying, good study habits. We have academic support centers, just like the middle school. And so much like the middle school, if you have an essentials classes, the teacher recommends you for that class. So again, if you have one now, during that springtime, you're talking to your teacher, your parent, or your caseload manager, that's whenever you have those conversations about essentials to get additional support. And almost every course we offer here at the high school, all the disciplines usually have an essential course associated with it. Testing. So it's kind of uncertain what's going to happen in the spring. In the middle school, most of you take the PSSA exams, typically end of April and May. And last year they were canceled. We'll see what happens this year with COVID and the pandemic. Some of you, if you have, for instance, an algebra class, you take the Keystone exam. So again, the Keystone are similar to the PSSAs, but they're the high school equivalent. And so we have 3 of them in algebra, literature, and biology. And so currently what the state of Pennsylvania is saying is that before you graduate, you have to show that you're proficient in those 3 subjects. There's different ways to show you're proficient. One is to pass all 3 of them, getting a proficient score. And the second is taking the total score, the cumulative or the combined average of 4,452. So you could basically pass 2 of them and be basic or not proficient on the other. As long as your score adds up to 4,452, you've met the state requirements. There's other pathways as well, and they're outlined in the program of studies. For instance, like another popular one that may happen in a couple of years is if you take the PSAT and you score 970, which is somewhat equivalent to an SAT score. You do that, you pass a course, that's considered pathway 3. So, between now and when you graduate, there's different ways you can show that you've demonstrated a proficient understanding of algebra, literature, and bio. But again, like everything with the pandemic, it could change. So we'll stay tuned to see if the PSSAs and the Keystone exams occur in the spring. Next up, credit. So as far as how many classes or credits you take, you think if you have 1 English class, it's 1 credit. So if you're on a core team, say bronze, you have 4 classes, that's 4 credits. All freshmen have 6.5 credits. And many take more than that, typically 7 or 7.5, and we discourage 8 credits. As I said earlier in the presentation, it's nice to have a balance in there and also have a study hall so you can focus on your work, collaborate on a project, get access to your teacher. So again, in the springtime, when you see your schedule, 7 to 7.5 credits are very typical for a freshman. As far as the core go, the world language class is considered a core. That's why I see 5 core classes on here. The 4 you have in your bronze or chrome team or integrated with math, and then the world language. As far as world languages go, in middle school, you typically have intro and 6 is exploratory, 7th every other day, and 8th every day. In high school, almost all of our students are taking 2 years or more of a world language. And that's something that the colleges like to see as you move on to the next level. Okay, so parents and students. When we talk to your parents tomorrow night at Winterfest, we encourage you to look at the program of studies, look at the resources we have available. And starting February 8th next month, we're going to say pick 5 electives that you have an interest in taking. And when we get to that point, you can choose alternatives too. And what that really means is that you love art, that's your first pick. Unfortunately, you're not guaranteed to have art. So what's an alternative or backup? And that's the idea of picking 5, is that you may not get your first choice, but the second choice, most likely you'll get. Some upcoming presentations. Again, we mentioned this a couple times earlier. Tomorrow, January 14th, 6 p.m., we invite your parents out to a virtual presentation. And then at 7 o'clock is when Winterfest kicks off. So if you're interested in joining a club or a sport, you want to talk to one of the teachers of the high school, there's Zoom breakout rooms. And as Mrs. Kepius mentioned earlier, almost 100 clubs here at the high school. So, today's kind of like your first step, thinking about the high school, the transition, the courses, the programming. Tomorrow night's the fun event. Pre-COVID, it was in person, but given the circumstances right now, it's virtual. As far as the dates and the timeline go, starting next week, your teachers both, we're talking 8th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th. So anyone next year at the high school, grades 9 through 12, their teachers are sitting down and starting to think about the placement for next year, what course they're going to take. So that's going to occur over about a 3-week period. I do recognize the 18th, you're not in school. Enjoy a long weekend. And then February 8th to the 12th, it's whenever you pick your electives. So Ms. Walkowiak will certainly touch base with you about those 5 that you choose. And then February 16th, with the Home Access Center. So one of these things is that I know some of the students and parents are probably checking Hack for grades and progress. Whenever we publish the information, the courses, we put it on Hack, the Home Access Center live. So if you're curious about what classes did you sign up for, what classes your teacher recommended, it's available on the 16th for grades 9 through 11. Again, 12th grade, they're moving to college, so they're not part of that process. February 16th and March 5th, that's whenever the counselors, both, Ms. Walkowiak at 8th grade and then high school counselors, they're talking to students, they're going into classrooms, virtual students. I know you're not in school, so they will probably have some kind of Zoom setup where you're checking and reviewing the classes for next year. And the idea there is making sure that there's a balance, that you're taking, 1, the required classes, and 2, you're not taking on too much, or maybe you're taking the classes that are of interest to you. So again, you do have time, FaceTime with your counselor, your teachers, and we want your parents involved in this process too, to make sure you're getting the classes that are best suited for you. A couple more dates. February 8th through the 12th, again, that's when you're picking electives. And we have a cheat sheet there. It helps you through the process. There's a 2-page handout. Everything's highlighted in yellow that you could possibly take as a freshman, because some of these classes, they're designed for upperclassmen. So again, it's highlighted for you. So you're like, I don't know if this class is for freshmen. It's a nice way just to have a little handout that Ms. Walkowiak has. As I mentioned earlier, if you don't have your Home Access Center account, please make sure you can log in and know your password. Your parents have access to it as well. I'm not sure who's in charge of the middle school. Probably, maybe Miss Gangle in the school counseling suite might be able to help you with that. I'm not sure who the point person is to get the access. And the other thing too is that at some point, which is April 23rd, that's when any of the changes for next year, you can't change it after April 23rd. So between like February, March, and April, that's when you're looking at your schedule, you're making any changes, maybe you want to override into a more rigorous class. But April 23rd, that's when we very much freeze everything. This is for the high school students too. And that's when we start to tell the teachers like, okay, hey, next year you're teaching this math class, this social studies class, and that's when we start to finalize the schedule. So between like April 23rd and late August, before you come back to school, that's whenever the counselors and administrators are trying to put together the schedules for 1,200 students. So it's a pretty big process, a pretty big undertaking. And so that's why we keep on saying, talk to your teacher, talk to your counselor, talk to your parents, and really make sure those schedules are set. And then April 23rd, that's when things are shut down and the schedules are built. And last, I know today was a lot of information. It could be overwhelming. The thing we keep on saying is talk to people, talk to your counselor, your teacher, your brother, your sister that may have come through the high school. Ask questions. Mrs. Kepius or I will be in the lunches today, tomorrow, and next week. Schoology, those are great resources there to ask those questions. And just remember that there's all these supports. We're here for you. We look forward to seeing you. 8th grade is a special time. I used to joke when I was in 8th grade as the house principal that, you're kind of like the kings and queens of the building. You're the role models. You've been there for 3 years, and it's a great time. Hopefully this spring things start to change a little bit, and you have some of these more enjoyable, memorable events. We look forward to seeing you up here very soon. So again, whether we catch you virtually tomorrow night at Winterfest or at lunches the next couple of days, we have another event coming up in May where you visit the high school. So there'll be many steps along the way. Today is just kind of the first one of many in this transition. And also in the summer, we have different programs, orientation and mentor programs in August to get you connected and ready for school. So I know that Dr. Bryan and maybe Ms. Wakowiak, I think, want to share a couple of things. So again, thank you for your time, and I'll catch you at lunch today if you're in person.
Thank you, Mr. Bruderbaugh. All right, guys. So I just want to share a couple of takeaways. I want you to make sure you're writing these down or listening, and don't panic. I know it's a lot of information that happened today. You guys are going to get through this. You're going to do great, and we're here to support you. The first thing I want you to just keep in mind is that in the upcoming weeks, I will be coming into your social studies classes, and during those class periods, I'll walk you through the course selection process. We'll go over how many credits you need, the amount of classes that you're able to take, what you're able to choose and how you choose those, and the electives that are available to freshmen. In the following weeks, I'll go into your science classes and I'm going to come in with the counselors from the high school, and they're going to help you actually put in the classes that you've selected into Hack. So here's a big piece I need you guys to do for me. On our asynchronous day, which is on Friday, I want you to log into Hack under your name. If you do not have your username and password, or you're not sure what it is, please message me on Schoology and I will get that to you this Friday. So please, please, please check your Hack account, okay? Not your parents, you have to have your own. The second thing is I'm going to start posting in what's called the class of 2025 on Schoology. So all of you have been added to this course, and that's where I'm going to put all of the information for high school transition, okay? So the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to post a survey there, and on Friday during asynchronous, I want you to just click that you see it or you don't. That way I'll know if you guys have access to this, okay? So those are the two big things, your Hack account and checking your class of 2025 Schoology page, okay? And then we're gonna, as the weeks come up, I'm gonna post things. So I'll post the recording of this whole entire session that we just had. I will post our course selection guide once that's available. Any type of useful tools will be found there, okay? And any instructions for the upcoming weeks. I'll even post the PowerPoint from today if that's helpful for you guys. So the biggest thing right now is to just make sure you save your questions and take them to lunch today or tomorrow if you're in the building, or message me on Schoology, and we're going to do it in the class of 2025, okay? And I hope if you guys have any questions, you're not afraid to ask. So make sure that you reach out if you need anything at all. Get excited, okay? You're almost freshmen. Woo. All right, Dr. Bryan, anything else from you?
Yeah, real quick. I want to thank Mr. Bruderbaugh. I want to thank Mrs. Kavgis. I want to thank Ms. Wakowiak, because putting this presentation together, it was a big undertaking, but I think it was a lot of great information for you guys. I'm glad that you're going to be able to, go back and look at this once we post it. So if you have any questions, you're like, I missed this and I want to rewatch this again with my parents or someone from home, you absolutely will be able to do that. So we'll have that Schoology page started up for you guys, and we'll both be adding in pieces of information here and there. So really, it's really important for you when you get a message that we've added an update for you to check that out. I also want to thank all of your teachers, because this has been a challenging year, and we're doing things a lot differently this year. And being able to get this presentation to all of you, I want to thank all of them, because it's a lot of change and a lot of differences this year, and we're trialing a lot of it as we go. So I want to thank all of them for helping out and assisting with being able to get all this information to you guys today. I want to piggyback on what everyone has said. Make sure you take all of your questions to your lunches this week and next week. If you're virtual, make sure you're posting those questions to us on that group, that Schoology page we're going to set up. And, don't forget about Winterfest tomorrow night, because that's really important. That'll be a really good segue from this conversation we're having here today. And finally, I know it's crazy, and I know this is a different kind of year, but we're going to make sure as a team, your teachers, the high school, Ms. Kavgis, Ms. Wakowiak, myself, we're going to make sure that all you guys feel you're ready, prepared, and comfortable with your transition to high school. So do not worry about it. And if you do have any fears, or you have any concerns, or you have any questions, we want to hear from you guys, okay? We're never short on being able to take questions from you. So we want to make sure you guys feel comfortable in this process, and we're going to be there with you for the entire road. So make sure that you reach out to us if you need us, okay? I want to thank everyone again for joining us today, and that concludes our presentation. Thanks, everyone. Have a great